Hey friends, it's your good friend Tim Campbell-Smith, and today I am answering your top questions about college and university. Having taught at the college and university level, having gone to college and university, I know a thing or two about this area. It is a big, scary transition and investment of your time, energy, and money, so I want to help ease the transition by answering your questions. Before we go too far, make sure you like and subscribe for all things higher ed, business, photography, mental health, and life. Okay, let's dive into it. I searched across the internet to find what the top questions were, and here they are, in no particular order. First, are classes and tutorials mandatory to attend? Do you have classes every single day? Sometimes yes, but rarely. A mandatory attendance depends on your prof, your program, and your school. Overall, though, I'd say for the most part, for most people, attendance will not be mandatory. I tend to see that mandatory attendance is required in what I'm going to call more professional programs or programs that train you to do a job. So like engineering, social work, nursing, some business attendance might be mandatory. And then classes every day depends on your program. Sciences and fine art are more likely to have classes and labs and practice every single day because they typically have more course hours, and that includes engineering. Because they have more class hours, they're more likely to have classes every day. And college, you don't have as much flexibility. University, you get to pick your schedule a little bit more and when your classes are, so you can, if you want, you can build in days off. But even so, I think I'm going to say typically, and again, in most situations, no, you will probably not have class every single day, Monday through Friday. But again, depends on your program. Next, when do you apply for college or university? So I'm going to keep this answer to Ontario because this is what I know. But in Ontario, we have two different systems, OUAC and OCAS. OUAC, the Ontario University Application Center, who houses all the applications and then sends it off to the schools. And OCAS, the Ontario College Application System, I believe. It's in October, so it's mid to late October that applications open and you start applying. And then when does it close? That's a funnier question. In theory, it stays open till August, heck, maybe even September. But there is something called something like the guaranteed acceptance date. So if you get your application in by a certain day, you are considered like an on-time applicant and you get reviewed in the first round. But if you apply late, then you are considered after all the other on-time applicants are considered. And that's only if the space has, or the program has opening. So if it's a really competitive program, I'm going to pick nursing because that's an easy one to pick on. They are always extremely competitive. If you apply late to nursing, your chances become almost non-existent to get into the program because way more qualified applicants applied on time. Next, can universities detect artificial intelligence generated work? This is an ever-evolving conversation, but I would summarize my answer as kind of. Yes, profs can usually detect AI use mainly based on pattern recognition. Something students forget, and it's funny because I only know this having been an instructor in higher ed, is instructors, we review dozens or hundreds or even thousands of assignments. So for us, we can see patterns in work. And that's a big way that we detect AI use is patterns. Because AI also acts in a very patterned way. AI has a lot of hallmarks and commonalities. And I have a whole video on this and how to use it ethically. But a few examples of patterns that we can recognize or that are hallmarks the way AI acts. One, AI in writing will typically parrot back what the request was. So say I ask AI, ChatGPT, can you please write me a 1,000-word essay on the causes of the War of 1812 between Canada and the US? It will probably start the first sentence with the causes of the War of 1812 were da-da-da-da-da, and it will repeat that phrase throughout. So that's one thing that they may notice. Voice and tone is another common one. AI writes with a very specific kind of voice and tone. And typically AI is generic and lacks any depth or proof. So Most of the time, when instructors suspect, or profs or TAs or whoever suspect AI use, it's based on patterns of things that they've seen. The next question, what is the difference between college and university? Are they the same? I think this confusion comes because in the US, my understanding is that like they'll call it like what they call college, we understand to be university. So I think that's maybe where the confusion comes from, because they are definitely not the same thing here in Canada. Colleges focus on training you for a job and to do something very specific, whereas university typically teaches you a lot about a specific discipline or a series of disciplines. College is more hands-on and practical focused. University tends to focus on the theories, the ideas, the research, the academic research behind a subject matter. Generally, if you want a job that requires graduate school or higher level training, go to university. If you want a job, and especially you want a job sooner rather than later, go to college. Which brings us to our next question of, should I go to college or university? Which I think is an excellent question. I think you should go wherever will set you up for success and make you happy. Please see my previous answer on what is the difference between college and university, figure out which one will make you happier. Especially, I also want you to think about like what's going to serve you in the long run. Can a certain program in college or university be transferable so that you have wiggle room to grow, move, change without having to go back to school? This is why like I love a general B-commerce, Bachelor of Commerce degree, because you can do HR and then maybe you're like, oh, I want to go into marketing. And then from there you go, I might go into management. You don't have to go back to school for each of those. That one, in this case, degree at university can train you to do a bunch of different things. But again, it's whatever sets you up for success and makes you happy. Next, and this one should not be as juicy as it is, but it is. What is the acceptance rate for, insert my choice of, university? Acceptance rates are an American concept and an American focal point, because my understanding is that in the US, it's more like you get into a university for something generic and then you go into your program. So that's why they look at the acceptance rate for the entire university. But in Canada and Ontario specifically, acceptance rates will vary by program and really by the program that the school is known for. And it doesn't help that acceptance rates isn't really something that colleges or universities publish. So for an example of the competitiveness of programs, Laurier. Laurier is really known for their business school. So a Laurier BBA, a Bachelor of Business Administration, is far more competitive than, say, a Bachelor of Arts in English at the Brantford campus. The BBA program, at the time of recording, they said that their minimum cutoff was high 80s. But for a BA in English, and especially from the Brantford campus, the minimum cutoff was low 70s. That, again, we don't know acceptance rate, but that's an indicator that it's easier to get into one program than the other, and it's not about the whole school. Next, what is the top university in Ontario? Again, top is so subjective and not something we commonly look at. It depends on what you, like, how do you define top and for what field? Because different schools are known for different things. I will say though, there are I'd say about 3 or 4 different schools that are commonly cited as top schools. Toronto, Queen's, Waterloo, and McMaster are commonly cited as top universities. And top in this case is generally defined because of the research, the funding that's going on, and how intense their programs are. But really, top school is based on the program. If you want to study art, go to OCAD. If you want to study business, go to Laurier. If you want to study the sciences, go to U of T. If you want to study engineering, go to Waterloo. Next, can you work while in university or college? Short answer, yes. Slightly longer answer, you have to be so on top of your time management. You're probably not going to be working full time. If you do try to work full time, I suspect your studies would be compromised. It's part-time at best, but yes. Most people find they are able to work while in school, but it definitely takes time management. This was an interesting question I found on the internet, and I'm mainly going to address it as with an interest in social work, but should university be free or should university not be free? I just want to say, I love that this was a commonly searched for question. I think the biggest reason why college and university should be free is that, in theory, government pays for and subsidizes things it thinks its citizens need. This is why in Ontario and Canada, healthcare is covered, because they think everybody needs healthcare. This is why roads are covered, because we need to be able to move from place to place. This is why libraries are free. In theory, government pays for things it deems important. Education is very important to society for a lot of different reasons. I think that's a good reason why college or university should be free. Now, why should it not be free? The biggest reason cited is cost. I think cost is a very lazy argument when it comes to politics and economics, but in this case, I think it's actually the biggest, and it's a very reasonable barrier. Universities and colleges are very expensive businesses to run. Who will fund it? Next, what kind of computer should I get? Especially, what kind of computer should I get for insert my program here? For most people, literally use whatever you want, use whatever you've got. As long as you can type, as long as you can access the internet, you're fine. I think it more comes down to, do you prefer Mac or PC? I will say some programs, some specialized programs may tell you what they want, but that is very rare. Computer science and engineering, I am told from friends in those programs, they have to do Windows because a lot of stuff doesn't work on Mac. I know business students are encouraged to use PC and Windows because they have to run some programs like Power BI that only runs on Microsoft. But also if they're using like the Microsoft ecosystem, apparently it's easier on Windows. I don't know, I'm a Mac person. But I hear that from business students. I've heard from graphic design, animation, photography. They're encouraged to use Mac because on the opposite side, or Apple, sorry, because on the opposite side, many programs won't run as well on Windows. So for the most part, use whatever you want. But if you're going into a specialized program, check. They may tell you. Actually, they will tell you. Next, how do I apply for scholarships and bursaries? Well, I have a whole video on this and I will link it somewhere with this video, but crash course, fastest, easiest way for scholarships, bursaries, and I'm gonna say loans and funding as well. Find engines. So I think of like Scholarships Canada is an engine that pulls together many scholarships from many different places. Look through your school. Every school has their own portal. So when, with Laurier, they have their own portal. Mohawk College, I saw they had their own portal. Like every school has their own portal for their own scholarships specific to their school. Also, look at your bank. Most, if not every bank, has different scholarships and bursaries. And finally, especially for loans, look through your province because I believe most, if not all, have a funding body that will offer loans, grants, and a mix of both. So in Ontario, it's called OSAP, the Ontario Student Assistance Plan. They give you a mix of like loans and grants and bursaries, and it's kind of confusing, but helps pay for school. Next common question, how long does it take to do an undergraduate degree? They're designed to take 4 years. More and more people are doing them in 5. And those are your questions, and the questions that I found, the top questions I found, on colleges and universities. There's a lot going on. It is a lot to absorb. It is definitely, I'm going to say a little bit sink or swim. It definitely, like, the base skill they teach you out of the gate is to make sure you use all resources available to you. Check all resources available to you. So make sure you keep checking that, including videos like this. Comment and let me know if you have any other questions about college or university, even if you're not in Ontario, and I'm happy to help and help folks navigate that space. Otherwise, make sure you like and subscribe for all things higher ed, mental health, business, photography, and life. Otherwise, we'll chat soon. Bye for now.